Are your relationships driving you crazy? Are you experiencing rough challenges with family? Miscommunication with your friends? Upsets with the people you work with? What about your romantic love? Is the tension too much? Are you single and missing love? Are you feeling lonely and wanting understanding? Are there threats to break up? Is there too much pain? Does any of this sound familiar? There is hope. There are solutions. There are simple and effective communication tools. Experience compassionate connections. Bring happiness back to the family. Don't suffer any longer. Learn simple tools that work to transform relationships. We are happiest when our relationships are thriving. We've helped thousands of individuals, couples, and families back into harmony. Learn more at lovecoachacademy.com.
Welcome to Spirituality Gone Wild, and that was just a little quick commercial for our lovely Love Coach Academy and Scott Thomas, you all know and love so very much. And welcome today to back to Spirituality Gone Wild on Love Coach Academy. And this is also on Conscious Recovery, the one and the only, the master himself, one of my most favorite people in this world, TJ Woodward.
Oh, thank you, Debbie. You're one of my most favorite people in the world, and I'm grateful. We're living in a very extraordinary time right now, and I'm really grateful that we get to come together and have a conversation today.
I am too. We've had some crazy energy flying, and today I asked you, what did you want to talk about today? And you said the conscious response to adversity. Why did you want to talk about the conscious response to adversity? Because I think it's brilliant.
Well, there's so much happening in our world, right? Many of us have been in shelter in place for what seems like an eternity now. I don't know if that's true for you, but for me, seems like it just keeps going on and on with COVID-19 and all the fear, the pandemic of fear that surrounds that. And then we've had these events where I think there's a relationship between us slowing down and then us becoming really aware of watching, someone murdered right there before our eyes, and the response to that. And the response to that has been, of course, really broad, but a lot of the response has been anger and rage. And one of the things I want to talk about today that I think can be really useful is not using the conscious response as a bypass to, oh, I shouldn't feel angry or I shouldn't feel rage, but more about how we can use that anger and that rage in a conscious way to actually facilitate change on the planet. So I really want to talk about that. I know that's huge topics, but it's important.
It's really important because as what we're seeing and discovering with this is that now that some of us are, facing things maybe we haven't faced before, or feelings and emotions that are coming up and we don't know what to do with them. So these types of things are really important so that we can begin to learn what to do with them. So I'm going to put the spotlight on you. Let's take it away.
Well, I think, again, we're living in times where things are coming to the surface that have always been there, but through technology, and honestly, Debbie, also through us slowing down with COVID-19, I think people are more aware of what's happening. So as many people have said, racism in America and in the world is not new, but it's now being filmed more, and it's coming up for a profound healing. But a big part of that healing is we must acknowledge what's really happening. And I think it's been really easy for us, especially Americans, to stay so busy that we're not really paying a lot of attention to what's really happening. And I feel like right now we're on the precipice of a great change, but we need to be conscious in order to have that change happen. I know in my own journey, I had to have a lot of what was buried in the unconscious come to light for my healing. And that's what's happening in America right now. But what I want to say is just because it's coming to the surface doesn't mean that we're actually going to heal. That's where we need to be conscious. How can we Use what's happening right now in our world to usher us into a new era of more equality, more love, more connection, and more oneness, rather than the division that many people are wanting us to believe is happening.
Wow, that's absolutely brilliant. I'm imagining that this really has hit you at home on what's been going on lately. I think I'm picking up here. That's why I know this. This has had to have hit you harder for a couple of different reasons. Your husband is uh, a Black American,
Mm-hmm.
and you are, you're both gay. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I'm imagining you're both gay.
It's helpful. It's helpful in a gay relationship if you're both gay, but that's a whole other story that we could talk about. Not
Yeah, like I'm thinking.
necessary.
Well, we won't go there right now, but yeah. Oh my God,
That's a
you
whole
gotta
different show.
TJ, could you just I mean, sometimes the way things come out of my mouth, even I'm shocked. But the fact is this really did though. This is something that's really hit you home. Talk to me about how this has affected you.
Well, one of the things, I just want to be really transparent because I think that is what is wanted and needed right now. I have been really reflecting over the last few weeks on how much I have been swimming in the sea of racism. I just want to name that. I grew up in Indiana in the 1970s, and there was a lot around me. There was a lot of things being said that were very racist. There were a lot of viewpoints that were very racist, and it was very overt back then. It was
Yeah, yeah,
before a lot of it went more underground. And I
yeah.
remember having this visceral reaction of how horrible it was, but I also need to acknowledge that some of that got in, right? Because if we're going to heal this, we need to really look, each of us individually, at what's trapped in our own unconscious. What are my biases? What are maybe I'm not even aware of the biases that I have. So, as you've said, my husband is mixed race and he's half Black, and this has hit him in obviously a very profound way. And we've had some really intense conversations that have allowed me to see where I had some unconscious defensiveness that I wasn't aware of.
Mm.
And some biases that I'd rather honestly just not acknowledge. But the key here is we need to acknowledge it, or we're just going to go back to status quo. And this is not the time to go back to normal. This is the time to use this as a transformational opportunity for us to actually make a big shift in human consciousness and in the history of the world.
I love that. Absolutely. 100%. This is the biggest opportunity any of us have ever been given. I know that there's a lot of things going on, and if we look at it externally, it just shows me the change starts with me. I don't really know any other way to look at this. Everything has to start within. I'm appreciating your willingness to show up and be so vulnerable, because that's not easy to say. I've had biases. I notice that, like, whenever I get judgmental about something, I have my thoughts about certain subjects, and I realize, yeah, there is a bias of me. So to even be able to observe that space though is pretty awesome, and the fact that you were able to talk to him about this was pretty cool.
Yeah, and I want to speak to, our brothers and sisters on this spiritual path, because I think there has been a tendency, and this is going to be a little bit of a blanket statement. So rather than that, I'm going to go to my own experience. When I came into spirituality, I really wanted everything to just be love and light and oneness. And the ultimate truth is the ultimate truth, right? Underneath all of this, we're all one. Underneath all of this, we're all one and equal, but we also have this physical experience. And I personally used spirituality to avoid some of those topics. My good friend Michael Beckwith spoke to this really clearly a couple of weeks ago at Agape, when he said, this is not the time to use your anger to vent, because venting allows us to feel better, but it doesn't actually help us to change. So if I'm noticing myself being defensive, if I'm noticing myself being angry, if I'm noticing myself feeling sad, can I use that? So right now, my invitation for those of us in the spiritual world, and I'm using air quotes, in the spiritual world, to really take a look at how we can actually acknowledge what's happening for us individually and collectively rather than doing a bypass.
Bingo. I love that because it is, and it's also not located outside of us whatsoever, but really coming into, so all right, we come into the awareness, TJ, that something's up. We feel it coming up. Let's talk about an easy peasy tool that we can give and share right now. Okay, because I know that shame is a big reason
Yeah.
that we get into these spaces. So let's see where this goes with that.
Yeah, I mean, collective consciousness, there is a lot of shame, and that shame gets passed down from generation to generation, and shame thrives in silence. Shame thrives in secrecy.
Wow.
Those are the key points, right? Let's not talk about this. So, like I said, early in my life and, back in the 70s, people were saying things that were really like, to me, very just shocking. But then a lot of it went underground, right? We're not going to talk about our biases, but we're going to see them. We're going to feel them. There's an energy to it. So the number one tool is to be authentic and transparent. And with some people in our lives, take the opportunity to really check in. Another tool that's really important, Debbie, and you and I talk about this a lot, is allow ourselves to feel the emotion. Because what I notice right now on social media is the people that I call my friends that are in the spiritual world being fairly brutal and judgmental. I have a friend who was literally copying other people's posts and blasting them out there and saying, look how horrible this person is because of his point of view. All that does is creates more of it. So,
yeah,
never has there been a time that if I have a finger pointing at you, I have three pointing back at me. As cliche as that is, it's really important.
It's so true.
Let me start with me. Yeah.
Always. And I think that this is just so brilliant because there isn't actually anything going on outside of me that can do anything whatsoever. It's all based on perception and my own reaction. And I've had some upsets. I'll tell you what, I normally am pretty even kill about dealing with most things. And I found myself over the last few days miffy over some stuff.
Yeah.
But it wasn't actually, it all had to do with me not speaking my truth, with not with just because I'm got that codependent, forget it. I don't want to, we're not talking about it. I'm just done. I'm just over. I'm just going to tuck it away. So I will definitely do that. And I found myself doing this too. It really takes it. I have to look at myself. There isn't anything else. It doesn't work any other way. So to say that somebody outside of me is doing anything, including what's going on in the world, would just be silly. If we just start with ourselves and even though it can be tough. So, right now I'm feeling like talking about your 4 rooms might be handy.
Okay. So the 4 rooms are physical, intellectual, emotional, and spiritual. It's an Indian proverb that says we're like a house with 4 rooms. And so we do have physical aspects to life, intellectual, we have thoughts, right? We have intellect, we have emotions, and then we have this spiritual room. And to me, the important piece is that we integrate all of them, right? And I used to, like I said before, jump to the spiritual room to kind of deny what was happening in the physical or the intellectual, and absolutely to deny the emotional. Not because I think it was because I wanted to be good and I wanted to be oh so spiritual, but it was also because I had spent a lot of my life running from emotions. And what I have discovered is integrating those 4 rooms actually creates freedom. And that's the only way that the world really changes, is if each of us are dedicated to doing some of our own work. It's really easy to blame. It's really easy to finger point. And I'm not saying there's not a place for that. Holding, systems accountable is something that's up for our country. And at the same time, also reflecting on how I can do the inner changes that are necessary for me to be a part of the solution instead of part of the problem.
I love that. And that's actually what you are, because you are part of the solution. you have this incredible website. You guys, it's floating right here. You see it? tjwoodward.com right here. You know that you can go there and you can sign up for these courses that he has, and they're amazing. You bring conscious recovery, but also conscious thoughts, different ways of dealing with all of these challenges and turning them into opportunities.
Yeah.
And for all of you watching, I really, whether you're watching right now or on the replay, um, please go and consider taking his course, because I mean, there's get as many tools in your tool belt as you can get in your tool belt. It's just that simple. And I just love the work you do. I seen what it did for my son firsthand, and we've talked about this before. My son Christopher, it was a big deal. Conscious recovery, that book changed Christopher's life.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, pretty brilliant stuff there, mister.
Thank you. And I was talking with someone today that they're doing with their spiritual center, they're doing the course as a group. And there's a woman that
Wow.
is 80 years old, and she said, I didn't know there was more depth for me in terms of healing some of my past, but she discovered more, right? And I just want to be really clear about something. I created these courses because I suffered so much,
Yeah.
because I lived in so much pain. I lived in so much disconnection. I found myself feeling suicidal on more than one occasion, and just riddled with addiction, and wanting so desperately for someone or something to fix me, to help me feel better. And I discovered a way out, and that way out was a way in, right? We already talked
Yeah.
about this, but like, to shift my focus from what out there can help me feel better to really what in here can create actual change. And it's just, honestly, it's my honor to have created Conscious Recovery in these courses to help people rediscover that essential truth, that place within themselves that is still whole and perfect.
I'm absolutely loving this. I get excited because I know, for those of you that are just going to discover this phenomenal body of work, get ready. Get ready. That's all I got to tell you. Just get ready. It's going to be amazing. An 80-year-old seeing that there's another perspective, another way to transmute this stuff. That is just incredible.
Yeah, and she's such a way shower, right? I hope I'm still really teachable and curious and hungry for change at 80, right? To be able to continue to recognize there's a deeper level for all of us, that there's no finish line, that this journey of reconnecting with our essential self, it can take a lifetime, and it can happen in an instant. That moment where I remember who I really am, and those years and years of programming can dissolve. It's a phenomenal process.
I think it is too. I hope we're always curious. I agree. I agree with you. Always curious to grow and expand. I don't believe that we should. I think I'll always have a mentor. I'll always have somebody or a few somebodies I am learning from and holding that regard.
Yeah.
I know Michael Beckwith is one of yours, right?
Yeah, Michael Beckwith. I mean, he and I came to know each other after I had already started my spiritual center, after I had already developed conscious being and conscious recovery. And there was just such a synergy there. So
Yeah.
he is someone that when I read his work, when I hear him speak, it's just like, yes, 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 yes. There's such a congruency there. So I'm just so grateful for our connection and now for our friendship. It's a deep honor. He's just such an incredible person. And Debbie, I want to speak to something too, because you and I have met a lot of people, right? And
Oh yeah.
it
Yeah.
sounds strange to say there are famous people in the spiritual realm, but the reality is there are. And people have this public persona, and then how are they when you're really one-on-one with them?
Yeah.
And
How is he when you really?
Michael is so authentic. He's so
It's
really who he is. His heart is so wide open. He's so loving, and being with him, and the first few times I spent any quality time with him, I just felt his authenticity and his presence. So it's not a show with him, and that is just something that you and I are so in touch with people's energies, and he's just a really authentic, beautiful game changer and a beautiful way shower for all of us.
I can't wait to meet him. I'm going. He's so cool. He seems so cool. I just love what he does. I mean, did you know that we had Dr. John DeMartini on
I saw that. Congratulations. How was that?
Oh my goodness. I got to tell you, he was funny behind in the like just behind the scenes in the green room when we're talking. He was so hilarious. And so another one that's like really like known, but just so down to earth TJ and just like way cool and making jokes about his harem.
Well, you know, it's so interesting you bring up humor, because one of the things that I have noticed with people that are on a spiritual path that to me have a really deep consciousness, a lot of what people take so seriously can be much lighter and funnier. And I'm not trying to make light of anyone's experience and say let's just go to humor. But I think as we do a lot of our transformational work, we find a natural joy. I think it's joy, right? And it shows up as a lot of times things are funny. And I remember
Yeah.
a friend of mine said, my good friend Joan Stedman and I, for a long time, we were co-ministering the Agape Bay Area. And she said, one of the things I notice about you two is you two laugh at a lot. You're laughing all the time. And that's one of the greatest compliments, because life can be much lighter. My life used to feel very, very heavy and serious, and it really just doesn't as much anymore.
Bingo. And joy is gratitude's belly button. I'm serious.
That's right.
You know, like the Pillsbury Doughboy. Go,
The Pillsbury Joe person, Joe boy or Joe girl. Joy. Wait, let me get it right. The Pillsbury Joy boy.
oh my God. That could be, well, yeah. And, but really, his gratitude is,
Right.
yeah, joy's gratitude belly button. That came to me truly, and I wrote it down, and all I could see was the Pillsbury Doughboy going, woohoo.
Yep.
Okay.
Exactly.
But it is true. Look at, we've got one day, we're in this present moment right now, but there's no guarantee that tomorrow will be here.
Right.
So if we can leave heartprints on the planet, and if we can make some ourselves laugh, and we can just stop and laugh at yourself, like that thing, you're just totally mad right now, and somebody needs to hear this. Like, you're so pissed off, you can't even see straight right now. You're just mad.
Yeah. Well,
And
and
just start laughing. Laugh at
yeah,
it. Laugh at
exactly.
it. Mhm.
Yes, there's joy. There's joy. There's love in the midst of all of it. And I think right now it's really easy with everything happening in the world, like I said, to be angry and to have rage and all of that. The most important, if I could say anything, any one thing, it's whatever you're feeling is perfectly appropriate. Right, because I can easily judge myself for feeling happy as much as I can judge myself for feeling angry, right? The voices of like, oh, you shouldn't be in joy right now because look how much suffering, or you should be more, serious about this. On the flip side, I spent a lot of years saying spiritual people don't get angry, spiritual people don't have rage, and that just isn't useful. Right, because we can actually use that as a catalyst for something, and ultimately there's a lot of love in this world right now as well.
Yeah, because I love that, and I love the whole idea that love is all there is. I think it's very, in fact, it's been coming out a lot lately. Is about the connecting with source, connecting back with your God source self, God source energy, and really tapping back into the love that you really, really are. And that's one of these opportunities, because the opposite of the fear and the anger and the riots and all this is love. And what happens is, you know, the, what happens, like, okay, Huntington Beach. So I've been following them, TJ. You know what they're doing? They pulled together as a community, and they didn't have all of the horrible things happen like what kind of what's happened in Los Angeles, and I imagine some in San Francisco. But the people that pull together in communion and union and with love in their hearts to help each other, you see miracles happen this way. And love is all that there is. There is no separating that. That is impossible. And we've been trying to prove that it is possible for so long. Now look at the mess we're in. Okay, we think we've got it.
Yeah, and the thing that's really fascinating is I think the only real way to talk about spirituality is to talk in paradox, right? Because if we say love is all there is and someone is enraged and even being violent, We might
Yeah.
say that's the opposite of love, but that might not be true, right? That person is really expressing the request for love, right? And if,
Yeah.
we have, let's just name it, right? We have been a racist country in so many ways for so many hundreds of years. And,
Yeah.
there have been attempts at being very peaceful in the way that people have demonstrated. And sometimes, and I'm not saying that the violence, I'm personally not going to be violent. That's not what I want to do on this planet. But I
Right.
also have a lot of compassion and understanding that people right now are saying, no, this isn't okay. We need to look at this. And if, in my own life, I can ignore it if it's subtle. I can ignore it if it's subtle. And sometimes it needs to be like a big explosion for me to say, have the oh shit moment. Something needs attention. And that's where we're at. And this is why I want to go back to what Michael Beckwith said. The important thing is not to only take that anger and that rage and vent because we feel better and then we go back to normal. That's not what we want to do right now. We want to say, let's use that to recognize that something is really wanting to change. And the more finger pointing and blaming we do, the less we get to what's really happening. So it actually becomes profoundly simple for me. What is the most effective way? I don't have the answers, but I do have a lot of questions. And the one question is the finger pointing working? Is the blame working? Or is there something deeper being called right now? Can we use whatever we're experiencing, including anger and rage, to be part of the transformation? It is time for us to, each of us, take an inventory right now. It's not time to build a wall in America. It's time to build a mirror, but it's time to also actually look in it. Because that's a nice little soundbite. America doesn't need a wall, we need a mirror. But are we really going to look? And I don't mean pointing the mirror at, the president or pointing the mirror at someone else. I mean, let me take a mirror and say, and how have I contributed to this? What needs to be transformed within me so that I can be part of the solution and not continue to be part of the divisiveness? Because media and social media is wanting us to believe we're completely polarized. And I don't believe that's true.
I don't think that's true either. I absolutely don't. And I do believe that, because let's just imagine that, everyone. All of a sudden, everyone only looking within themselves
Yeah.
and acting from a space of authentic heart consciousness.
Yeah.
What would this world look like when we say, you want peace in the world and you want these things to happen? Starting with ourselves, change begins with me is truly there isn't anywhere else. Imagine if a whole town did it.
Right.
What would happen? Well, this is going to be the 100th monkey thing. I'm telling you, T.
Yes, I agree.
Totally going to be the 100th monkey. I just see that this is going to happen. Yeah. What do you?
Well, yeah, and for anyone watching right now, the 100th monkey is that when a certain level of consciousness, a tipping point is reached, then there's a mass shift in consciousness, right? And
Yeah.
so right now, we want to be as conscious as possible about this so that we can start shifting. And, as you were talking, I've said that, and sometimes people say something like, well, that's so Pollyanna. Well, yes, that's what we're saying, because Pollyanna was a character that always looked for the great in the situation, because it becomes really simple. Does the divisiveness work? Does the finger pointing work? No, we've been doing it for thousands of years. It's time for something new, and more of us are waking up to the greatest gift I can offer the world is that of my own transformation. Lao Tzu said that 3,000 years ago. That's not original, right? There had been spiritual teachers telling us this. Jesus came and said, be in the world, but not of it, right? Be in the world, but not of it. That the spirit within, he used different language. But all these teachers, Buddha says, suffering is clinging in aversion. Right now, we're like, if regardless of where you are politically, if that person wasn't in office, I could be free. And that is literal insanity, because freedom comes from within. And the only real change that happens on the outside, as Debbie is saying, is when we have this shift in consciousness. It doesn't mean we don't take political action in the world. It doesn't mean we don't make a difference in the world. But if I'm coming at a situation believing that something's fundamentally broken and I need to fix it, that energy creates more of that energy. It's time for us to look at what true change looks like. And it's going to involve each of us slowing down and saying, what am I actually feeling? How do I heal this first before I go make the change in the world? So it's not either or, it's both and.
Whew. Get it, TJ, get it. That was so good. Oh my gosh. I mean, seriously, that was so in the flow. And appreciation, gratitude, the state. Okay, so a lot of this has been coming up, thank to say thank you. We all know to say thank you. Well, I hope we all know to say thank you, but that's not what it's about. It's that state of being that is gratefulness.
Yes.
And that is, if that could be your goal, to really get into that oneness and be in a state of gratefulness. But how important is that, DJ?
Well, you and I know that it's the most important. I think it's the most important
I
thing,
think
because
so.
we could say the frequency of gratitude and the frequency of love are really the same frequency, the high vibration. We are so programmed to look at the world through duality, good, bad, right, wrong. And right now, very literally black and white, right? We're looking at the world in duality, but the truth is not that. It's really oneness, right? And if I can shift from I'm grateful for this, but not that, this is good, but not that. Again, that's Buddha taught that was suffering. That's classic suffering. And really look at how I can tune into the frequency of love and gratitude, not raise my vibration, because we come into this world vibrating as the frequency of gratitude and love, and then we get trained to shut that down. So this is about reconnecting with that. What needs to be unlearned? And yes, that takes a deep look at my unconscious biases and beliefs about myself and the world. I return to that place of wholeness, that vibration of frequency and love, and then I can be that in the world, and that's how we actually change. That's why Gandhi says, be the change you want to see in the world.
And I don't think there's ever been a truer time. I mean, like right now is
Right.
it. This is it, guys. You've been waiting for something, and the something's here. The something's here. It's not going to be here. It is here. The when is when now. So when you ask yourself, okay, so this opportunity to do something that your heart is calling you to do. This is an opportunity. Seriously, you can make like some serious shifts in your life by just changing your perspective. I mean, that's all it changing the perspective is everything to me. Like when I start seeing it from when I look at somebody and I say, "Oh, I might be angry with them," rather than using the tools that I practice with Scott Katamas from Love Coach Academy,
Mm-hmm.
which is what is real for them? What is going on in their life? What is real for them? What using my empathy tools, we are being called to use our empathy. You've had the experiences in your life so that you can show up and be empathetic. Like I have had so many great opportunities to experience different types of trauma that have allowed me to be a more empathetic human being. But right now is the time to call that empathy forward, your compassion forward, and really see things from a different. I just encourage if you're mad at somebody, first write a list of all the reasons that you know that somebody in the first place, that you love that they're in your life to begin with.
Right. Right. Compassion is such an important tool. And as you said, Debbie, like some of the most painful experiences in my life have turned out to be the most useful later in my life, right? Like I've gone through, I had sexual trauma as a young kid. And so I'm able to be in the presence of someone who is processing their own, because I've done a lot of my own healing work around it, where I'm not trying to fix them or change them, but really just holding a space. And if you think about it right now, that's what's being asked. Like, let's really listen to each other. Let's be open. Again, I'm going to go back to social media. I've seen people posting, they're proud of the fact that they're unfriending people that disagree with them. But we're not going to heal this country if we just unfriend and look away from people that perceive things differently. When we can move beyond good, bad, right, wrong, and have compassion for someone, we might actually learn something. And I might actually learn something about myself. one of the things I've reflected on is how in my family system, we all know that my grandfather was racist. We all know that, but none of us have ever really talked about it. That was just our grandfather being him. Right now, I can easily say, well, I just don't agree with that, so I've rejected that. But I also have to recognize that I was in the presence of that. Have I talked to my sisters about that? Is that something that might help heal this? Yes. It's an opportunity for us to say, wow, what's really happening here? How can I have compassion for someone that appears to have a different point of view or a different life experience? How can I move into curiosity rather than judgment? It's kind of timely, that I use this acronym COP, becoming a COP, curious, open, and present. Can I be curious? Can I be open? Can I be present with someone that seems to have a different point of view than I? And might that be part of my own transformation? All I know is not all there is to know. That's the Course in Miracles. All I know is not all there is to know. How can I become more open and curious and present with myself and others? And again, what you said, Debbie, if we all do that for ourselves, the planet can actually heal in an instant. But we instead go to finger pointing and blame and unfriending people because they have these horrible points of view. Yes, it's true. I prefer to spend time around people that agree with me, but I also don't grow and change if I stay in my own little comfort zone.
Wow. So willingness and curiosity,
Yeah.
raising the level of compassion in this world, raising the level of empathy. I'm loving this. I want to say we have a great audience today. Hi, Naomi. Hi, Ariel. Thank you, Patricia Kelly. It's very sweet, very sweet. And Susan, hi, sweetie. And I love this. Thank you, Ricky. Thank you. Beautiful. Anybody have any anything on your mind that you wanna talk to us about or share? If you are loving what you're hearing right now, then I highly encourage you to go to this website right here, tjwoodward.com, and sign up for his course. And is it still 50% off?
It is 50% off. Yeah, we're still doing that. We realize a lot of people are sheltering in place. A lot of people feel uncertain about their financial future. So if you go to wholehearted.org, you can see that the course is 50% off now. And also, of course, we encourage questions and comments because that's my favorite thing to do, is to really be in conversation with you that right now who are watching.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Ricky, Susan, Naomi, Patricia, whoever is on the watch parties and other networks that we're on. If you have any questions, come over to Spirituality Gone Wild so that I'll see you directly. Go ahead and type your question in though, and hopefully I'll see that. Oh, how cute. Susan said, this is so sweet.
You're going to have to read it to me. I
Oh,
told
that's right.
Debbie before we went on the air, I lost one of my contacts, so I threw the other one out. So all of you are very blurry right now. It's a really wonderful way to just be in the moment, but I can't read anything. And Debbie, I can't even see her face right now.
How much do you love TJ? I love that. Oh my God. Oh Lordy. Well, TJ, that's pretty good. But I'll tell you what, I had one. I'll never forget it. And you know who you are. I'm not going to say your name because it was the cutest thing I'd ever seen. He had eye surgery, but he doesn't like what he looks like without glasses. So he has prop glasses now, and it's just adorable. So he wears prop glasses. I don't know if he's told everybody that yet, but I thought that was the cutest thing ever. And what you just did was as vulnerable as heck. You guys, anybody get when you can't see something? Because I do. I need to go to eye doctor. Just to tell you what. So,
It's a metaphor for something, right? It's a metaphor for something.
yeah, I know. Probably. I'm thinking. I'm not sure. She said my son's name is TJ, so that is very cool. So, I think that the most important part here today that you're sharing is about people getting back in touch with themselves.
Yeah.
And really, asking yourself questions. Asking yourself questions. You have a lot of great questions that you ask in your book and in your workshop that you do. What are a couple of the key questions that you ask people as they're stepping into this work with you?
Yeah, one of what you're pointing to is a process that I call living in the questions. And it's really simply asking open-ended questions to expand our awareness, right? Because
Yeah.
again, if I believe I know, then I believe I know, and then I'm limited and I can't grow and expand unless I question my point of view. We talked about perspective. How much of life is perspective? All of it. And we've created our lens or our viewpoint based on life experiences, but more than that, based on what we've decided, right? What I've decided about the world is how I experience the world. So if I want to experience a different world, I can start to question the decisions. So the number one tool is to start questioning everything. I say, the path to enlightenment is simple. Unlearn everything you've ever been taught and remember the truth of who you are, which is this whole and perfect spiritual being. So one of the ways we unlearn is by questioning. So a few of the questions I love, like one question that could be really powerful for us collectively right now in our culture is, what is wanting to emerge? What is wanting to emerge? And these aren't intended to make a list of the answers, but to really sit with that. I wonder what's wanting to emerge in my life, in my city, in our country, on the planet right now. And you might go to a question of, what is mine to do? Who have I come here to be right now? How can I contribute to the transformation that is yearning to happen?
Yeah.
Sitting in these questions and then being curious and see if you can move them from answering them in your mind, because my mind likes to rapid fire answers, but it's more about sitting with the emotion of it and then really listening for that deep inner knowing. What's that inner voice want to reveal to you if you spend time, or when you spend time in the silence asking these deeper questions? Who have I come here to be? What's mine to do? What is really wanting to emerge? Sitting with those questions is life-changing. It has been for me.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much. You guys, I'm telling you, go there, tjwoodward.com or wholehearted.org. I do,
Wholehearted.org.
I'll put that up in a second, everybody. Wholehearted.org. There's some other great people on Wholehearted too.
Yeah, we've got Brene Brown, Dr. Gabor Mate, Mark Lundholm, who's hilarious. Speaking of hilarity, I finally have met him. We've worked in the same circles for years, but now we've done a few shows together, and he's hilarious and a really wonderful, beautiful, gentle being. So that's I'm really honored to be featured with the other thought leaders on Wholehearted.
I love that. So you guys, it's wholehearted.org, and that's where you're going to find these courses for 50% off. So get your booties over there and go get it. I'm telling you right now, it's just to look at. I don't even know how to. When I am somebody who I get very passionate when I've seen what can happen from. Let me just start that over again. That didn't even come out right. I saw, like I told you guys earlier in the broadcast, I've seen what happened with my son using TJ's tools, and it's pretty remarkable. All right, and my son was on heroin, and he shared this with the whole world, and he'd been through. I don't know if you know this, TJ. He'd been through recovery when he was 18.
Hmm.
So we'd been down that road, and there was just he got a hold of your book, and a light went on with him, and it's been on ever since. It literally just went snap to, and that doesn't mean that you need to be addicted to something um to benefit from this book. This is a different way of looking at how you were looking at your life before. It's just something different that I'm highly encouraging you to try, because you won't know it till you like it, right, Mikey?
Right. And one of the things that your son resonated with so much is this idea that he's not broken, And that is the fundamental difference with the conscious recovery approach. So much treatment, so many of the support groups, so much of what's written about in terms of someone that gets labeled as an addict or an alcoholic is looking at it through the lens of what's wrong with you, what's broken, how do you, stop using these coping mechanisms or having this destructive behavior. And I come at it from a really different perspective. And that is, do you remember a time when you were whole and perfect? Do you remember being very young and being curious and open, in awe? And I know with him, he said, yes, I do remember that. And so then the question is, what would it take for us to get back to that? What are the messages, the beliefs, the ideas that you've picked up from your world, from society, from kindergarten, that have prevented you from knowing that truth about yourself? And let's not look at addiction as something that's bad or wrong, but as something that was brilliant at one point, that actually helped you manage something. Let's get down to that. Let's look at how you were. I think we drink and use because we're trying to find our own wholeness again. We use relationships addictively, shop, sex, gambling, the internet, all in this search to try to feel that wholeness. And I don't know if we're all conscious of that, but there was a preciousness about us when we were really little. And I think we still are aware of that. And so if I'm out of touch with that internally, I'm looking to the world to try to feel that again. And it works really well for a very short period of time, like being in a new relationship. It's like, I feel so wonderful when I'm with them. Yeah. And then it's like, oh, wait, I'm left with, you did not fix me. And because I'm not broken. So the journey is returning to that wholeness internally.
You guys, that I can you just feel that impact right there? Tell you what, that's it. I want to share Ricky's comment. Says, I don't have any questions. At 49 years old, I'm just happy finally see what's been one of the biggest problems in the US. Thank you. That's so sweet.
Yeah.
I appreciate that so much.
Yeah.
I got a great question for you after. Would you like to respond to that? And then I'll ask you your
question. Just thank you for acknowledging that, right? I think that's what's being called right now, is for us to acknowledge our part in it, regardless of where we're at and what our life experience is, what race we are, what our socioeconomic status. We all have a part in contributing to the collective consciousness that is the United States. And there's some really beautiful parts of the collective consciousness of the United States, and there's some shadow. I think that the way we took over this country and stole this country, this land from the Native American people, has never been addressed. We've never really made amends for that. So we've built this country on racism, and I just want to name it. Now, we've built it on all kinds of other things. That's one of the issues that I notice. If someone like me, if I say, that's an issue we need to look at, someone can go to, but look at, we are also founded on freedom and love and connection, and yes, and. It's not a one size, it's not just this or that, and I think that's, something for white people to look at, right? I'll speak for myself. That's something for me as a white person to look at. Yes, I have been open and loving. Yes, I have been accepting of people that seem to be different. But can I also acknowledge that I have some other biases that maybe have prevented me? Maybe it's fear. Maybe it's judgment. Maybe it's I don't want to say the wrong thing, or I don't want to appear to, all and on and on and on. But if I just say, oh, all of this is just love and light, without saying, yes, there is a lot of love and light, but there's also this shadow that's being asked of us to look at right now. What if it didn't need to be as scary as we all think? Because what happens is we tend to go into self-blame or self-criticism. What if we took the rightness and wrongness out and said, okay, let's do the healing. There's hundreds of years of this that has been happening in our country, and it's really time for us to heal this, and it starts right in this moment.
Yep, we're healing our. That's been coming up a lot. Is healing our ancestors' wounds.
Yeah.
And, just absolutely amazing opportunity we've got right now to do that. We have a great question from Naomi. It says, she wants to know what that you're most grateful for.
What I'm most grateful for? You know what? This is going to sound like an interesting answer. I'm most grateful for gratitude. And let me tell you what I mean by that.
I love that.
I actually thought that gratitude was about being grateful for this or grateful for that. And as we kind of touched on, gratitude is actually a frequency. So I'm grateful to know that. I'm grateful to know that I can be the energy of gratitude in whatever's happening. So I guess I could say I'm grateful for gratitude, but also grateful that I've recognized that the world of duality is the cause of suffering, and that I can, and in a moment, remember the oneness, remember the deeper truth, remember who I really am. So I could list a lot of things I'm grateful for, but I'll say I'm grateful for gratitude.
Oh my gosh, I am grateful for gratitude. I love that. In fact, I love that so much. I am grateful for gratitude too, because it's a state of being.
Yeah.
It's that space you want to get back to that's warm and cozy and feels good and it's snuggly. It's that place that, you brought up the preciousness of being small, the preciousness of the innocence of a child. That's it's just a beautiful place to be. And she says, yes, that is what I had faith in that you would answer. She said, grateful for gratefulness. Woo! So I love that. And I love gratitude when we look at who we're grateful for. So I am grateful for all of you that have been on here today. And TJ, I'm always grateful for you. You're going to
Thank
be
you.
back. By the way, you're going to be back on
This
Thursday
week.
noon. Yes, you're going to be back with Saf Buxy from the UK. And it is going to just be amazing.
I am
Oh my
really excited
God.
about that. Yes, thank you for that opportunity. One of the things I want to appreciate about you, Debbie, is that you're a connector and you have an intuitive sense of who should know each other. And I just want to say thank you for the people you've introduced to me, where we've been able to collaborate and expand, because, there's something, each of us doing our own spiritual work is really powerful. And when we come together in twos, threes, fours, and create a global community, that's when that shift gets accelerated. So thank you for saying yes to that, because I know that's something that I can feel that's one of your greatest gifts. So thank you for saying yes to that.
Oh, thank you. I love to do it. It's so fun. I just connect people and I just watch what happens, and it's just the coolest. It's the coolest experience ever. And wait till you guys see what's brewing up with the connections this time. It's a we it's a whopper. Oh, you're involved in that, TJ. We've talked about it. It's a whopper. We've got a whopper coming. We've got a double, triple whopper coming.
Veggie Whopper, a triple
Big,
veggie Whopper.
huge, big, triple. Yeah, veggie whopper. That is. Yeah, we're not going to eat the meat.
Right.
Oh no, we're not doing it. But I got to tell you, I did listen. I'm up in the hills, TJ, and you know where Scotland is. It's beautiful here. So I had to go to Santa Rosa a couple weeks ago, and I had told my son, "This is how fast we manifest, you guys. You better just watch what you're thinking and watch what you're saying, because I'm serious right now." And I said, "Well, I probably am good with no fast food ever, unless I see In and Out."
Right.
And then I went to Santa Rosa, and then I saw In and Out.
Yeah.
I had, yeah, animal style fries. I just couldn't resist. So
We won't tell, even though I think a lot of people just heard you.
oh yeah, that's right. Well, anywho, so yeah, we have some great fun stuff coming. You guys make sure that you tune in, and tune in every day at 9 and 6, because the Love Coach Academy is live with Compassionate Talk, as well as a whole bunch of other great stuff, and Saturday Night Live on Saturdays with Scott Thomas and Jebra Jutsi, and a whole bunch of, we've had some serious, TJ's been on that too.
Yeah. And my friend Marianne Williamson was on, right?
Oh yeah, Miriam
Yeah.
Williams was on. She was on all last week too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw that.
Yep.
Wonderful.
It's been awesome. And yes, I agree. TJ is shiny energy. Thank you, Naomi. I want to
Oh,
thank you to everybody. I love you guys. Please go to the website. Also wholehearted.org. Let me put that up just real quick. TJ, while I'm putting this up, is there anything you'd like to leave them with?
I like to leave this same message pretty much anytime someone asks me that question. And that is simply, if no one's told you today you are a whole and perfect person.
Thank you.
Or even if someone has told you today that you're a whole and perfect person, you are a whole and perfect person. And as each of us know that more deeply, we change not only our own experience, but we instantly shift consciousness on the planet. So thank you for being a part of that.
Beautiful. All right, everybody, have a great night. Go to wholehearted.org, sign up for TJ's course. They are 50% off. And like, for real, you just heard a million reasons why that you need to put some more tools in your tool belt.